So, good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. More ramblings of an old 75-year black woman. Greeting you guys. Hope you had a very peaceful, restful evening and that you woke up happy this morning and happy to receive our 86,400 seconds of which we have to make merriment, fulfilling our purpose. Now, some of us may be stuck in purpose, but no, it's on the way. Some of us may be working in our purpose. No, we just need to stay in there a little bit harder. And just bottom line, we just need to keep on getting up, putting one foot in front of the other, and building these coalitions and these relationships that move us forward. Secondly, and first off, I want to wish Ms. Roselyn Carter, the wife of former President Jimmy Carter, a very happy birthday. She's 94 years old and is the oldest living sitting first lady. And her husband, oh my God, just lost his name. Looking right, oh, Jimmie. Jimmie Carter is 98, and he is our oldest sitting living uh, former president. I wish them both wonderful success. And I guess this takes me, first of all, we're recognizing her for being 94 years old. And I'll come back to her a little bit later in this podcast. So, happen to if you got Peacock out there, you know that Kevin Hart has a talk show called Hart, Hart, to Hart, Heart. It's interesting. He's had some interesting folk, Don Cheadle, and last night I was able to catch Taraji P. Henson. Just let me say that it was an interesting conversation, and I'm very, very, very pleased to support her interest in mental health, and so did Mr. Cheadle, and so has Richard Smallwood. These are all individuals that have publicly said they have had to themselves or folk in their family deal with mental health issues. And in the African American community, we don't like to talk about mental health issues, and we don't like to go and see anyone that might help us work through our mental health issues. But in order for us to navigate these waters from 2021 throughout, we're going to have to get some help. And if we're not going to do the self help, we're going to need to go and find help. But then once we go and get the help, we're going to have to make those changes so that we can ensure betterment for our families and our communities. So let me get back to what I said yesterday. I went online this morning and there is a couple. mm, They're in Texas. Lost my paper, don't know where it's supposed to go, but just trust my heart. These are individuals. The wife died recently, the husband back, but they left 4 children. Okay? Didn't even give us the ages today. And then there was the lady that I spoke about yesterday in Katy, whose car sustained 50 gunshot wounds, and she ended up on her garage floor trying to get help and dying in the process of trying to get help. And then we had the man that got his wife out of the car and chopped off her head. And then. So now I'm going to come back to we women. We're going to settle down and slow our road and make this selection process a little more sane. It's not about he's cute. It's not about she's cute. It's not about he has a great credit score. It's not about she has a great credit score. It's not about, oh, the car is wonderful. Oh, her car is wonderful. Oh, his house is great. Oh, I'm working on my house and it's going to be great. None of these things are going to help you get through this thing called a relationship. These things take time and they take work. And it is the work that is hard. It is the work that forces you, if you want to win in this thing called a relationship, it forces you to look at yourself squarely in the face and tell yourself the truth. If you know you've been in a relationship that wasn't great, and I have a kid, and I'm in another relationship that is not great, and we don't have any children, but I'm unhappy, what am I to do? I need to go back and rethink and refocus and relook. With whom did I speak? Did he see me working with and interacting with her family? Did she see him working and interacting effectively in his family? It is insanity for me to be in a relationship with a man or a woman for 5 years and have never met my mom, my dad, my preacher, is nobody? Then there are some questions. Now I'm sorry. Now I find myself in uncomfortable waters and I don't know what I did wrong. Well, we've got to take out time in these things called a relationship. It's a lot more work that has to go on now when you're trying to develop a relationship. Yes, I have my teeth in. I got up in a happy frame of reference, happy frame of mind. I got up really, really, really wanting to wish uh, First Lady Roselyn Carter a happy, 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 happy 94th birthday. And I love her. I've always loved she and her husband. I love their spirit. I loved how they tried to settle this country and bless this country and how ugly we were to them as a nation. Yeah, I remember what we did to him. And I remember how unkind we were to him, you know. And I when I did my list last night, I had to start identifying, calling people by name, calling preachers by name, just calling them out and telling this fuckery. Oh my God, we are so passive, or I have been so passive that I have allowed this minutia to travel through my little brain all up to 75 years. And in my silence, mm, a lot of shit has been going on and been serving up. We'll come back to relationships in a minute. But now, when you hear me speak, understand we must be willing to do the work to get a healthy relationship, which means huh, we have to learn how to communicate. We have to learn how communication, it is a process. It is the process of sending, receiving, and responding to messages. I have got to send it, the message. The message has to be received by whomever I'm sending it to, and then my messages need to be responded to in order for communication to be effective. And so we don't like to communicate. And there are lots of forms of communication. And we are real good at false communication or one-sided communication, but nobody wants to really, really focus and do the work that is required in open, honest, tactful communication, where I can convey a message that is the truth that is being heard and responded to in appropriate fashions. And we all know when communication is not taking place. And we refuse to go back and get clarity on the issues we were trying to put forth. We've got to do a much better job in communication. It's not fly by night. And it has to be first and foremost on this thing called a relationship. So I have been introduced through dating these individuals. Did I use open, honest, tactful communication patterns? Did I tell the truth? Was I clear in my messaging? Did I stand by my messaging? And was my yes my yes? And did I let my no be my no? And then how often did we decide to have communication with our mates? Are these people that now that we have moved from dating casually to dating exclusively to now dating as a couple to now, oh yeah, so the next thing we want to do, either men or women in the couple thing, we have to have this thing called sex. And this sex is way before marriage. And this sex is way before each of us have understood whether or not we are good, effective communicators. Like when I put a concept out there, was it received well? Was it clearly received? Was there clarity in the reception? And was the response congruent with what I was looking for? Now, ladies, we know when we're not telling the truth, okay? And we need to work on that. And B, ladies, we've got to take our bodies off the table. And C, ladies, we've got to take his money off the table. And I know nobody likes to hear me say that, I know, because it's hard. But the goal of these now intimate relationships, once we start talking about moving in and living together, and oops, having children, put a pin in that, I'll come back to it in a minute, okay? And then having these relations and not have done any more homework, we're not in for happiness because it's not going to last 60 years or because it takes too much work. 60 years is a long time. I'm 45 years in. Let me just tell you, 60 years, it has been a long 45 years. It's been a long, hard, communicative 45 years. And I still got, 4, 5, maybe 15 more years to go to get to 60 just for me. So now, come on. He can't be cute. It's not enough that he's cute. It's not enough that he has a car. It's not enough that he has a cute apartment. It's not enough that he uses credit cards when we're out and buys me things and showers me with things and da 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 da. Da. But I've never seen this man with his family, mother, dad, sisters, other siblings. I've never seen him if he was into religion with his church on any events for nothing. If he was politically motivated, I've never seen him at anything that happened. I've never seen him vote. We've never talked about voting. I've, you know, I've never talked to him about money. I've never talked to him about his credit score. I've never talked to him about my credit score. And ladies, we've never talked to him about our student loan debt. And he has never talked to us about his student loan debt. So before we even start talking about a relationship that involves marriage, where are we just in this dating relationship? How much do we really, really know about each other? How much time have we really, really, really spent investigating what each other's all about? Outside of being cute and having a car, using credit cards, and having a cute house. What do I fundamentally know about him when it involves his economics? And how am I going to fit into this thing called the relationships? Oh my God, does this man have children? And if he does, how many? And if there are more than one, how much are his child support payments? And how young are these children? So let me get back to it's not enough that he's cute, flashing a car, flashing his credit, going out to eat. That's not enough. And I don't care if we did this every week for 6 months. That's not enough. I need to see other interactions with other people. I need to find out what his triggers are. Oh my God, he needs to be finding out what my triggers are. Because while I'm saying he, that man has the right to say she. It's not enough that she's cute. It's not enough that she smells good. It's not enough that she's a fly dresser. If I have not seen her function in her family with her mom and her dad and her siblings, if I've not seen her function in her church if she's into church, if I've not seen her function in her community if she says she's into voting and all about community uplift, then I, as male, have not done my job in this relationship either. And mind you, I've not even got to getting married. Mm. We have not even, you know how women, how we are. I'm taking sex off the table. Okay. When do we speak about sex? When do we speak about health? When do we think about educational goals? When do we think about economic security? Or how are we going to manage economic insecurity? And this is before we have any children. Have we solved these common issues that just come off the cuff to new people, new couples? Because I did not go back to before we get married and you guys just decide to spend time together, living together. Who and when do you determine which side of the bed you're going to sleep on? And are you women willing to give up your side? Who controls that alarm clock? Who controls the temperature? Who controls the folding of clothes, the washing of dishes, the putting dishes in? Who, man, have we talked about these things before we got married? Have I seen you keep uh, great upkeep on your apartment? And has he seen how clean you are in yours? These are things we should be paying attention to. These are signs, signals that we should be paying attention to way before we say, I think I do, and I think I want to get married. And then when you go down the aisle to get married, you have the nerve and audacity not to even look at your husband and our wife and be willing to put 60 years to the working of this relationship. You look with a 5 year, oh, if it's not good, no, it's not supposed to, no, it is not supposed to be an if. Because once you decide to commit to that relationship, that's just what it is, a commitment for the duration of the relationship. And so I am so proud of Jimmy Carter and his wife. They got more than 50 years in. I'm so proud of Bill Clinton and his wife. They got more than 50 years in. I was so proud of the first H.W. Bush and Barbara. They had more than 50 years in. I'm so proud of George and Laura. They have way more than 40 years in. And I'm so proud of the neophytes, Michelle and Obama. They have more than 12, 15 years in. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes work to get there. And the only reason we could last 15 to 20 to 50 years is that we ask a whole bunch of questions before we got married. We saw these interactions we had a whole lot of visitations before we got married. Because right now, ladies, we're out here on our own choosing our mates. Hadn't always been like that. And I'm not saying we have to go back to when I came up or the generation just before me where, hey, dad found out who I was going to marry and made me marry him and didn't care if I loved him. It was just to get me out of his house and into a house with a man he thought was going to be good to me. And I came along. I don't want that kind of relationship, 40s and 50s and 60s. I wanted to do my own thing and find my own relationship. But then I looked at my parents because they had 30, 40 years in, and I wanted a relationship just like theirs. Not being remiss of the work that goes in 30, 40 years. Lord have mercy, Jesus, that's work. You have to be you have to be sharing honest communication. You have to be telling the truth. Oh my God. And this is before children. Because once children come, whatever that communication that he and I shared, it gets a pigeonhole in it. Because we now have to demonstrate to our children what the workings of navigating a relationship, husband wife dynamics, are all about. Jesus Christ. So, what am I saying? What I say all the time, man. If you're lucky enough to be out here and you're in your 20s, don't think about getting married. Especially if you're out in your 20s and you don't have any children, don't think about getting married now. I don't care if you're a female 20 or a male 20. Don't think about it. If you're 25 and don't have any children, do not think about getting married. If you're 30, do not think about getting married. Because what you have to now be doing is developing yourself, bringing clarity to your emotions. Because, ladies, let me just say, crying doesn't work. Doesn't work. We have to use real words that communicate real thoughts, real ideas that can be received and responded to in appropriate manners. So we can't be joking out here, ladies, because trust me, our men are sensitive. They're way more sensitive than we give them credit for, and they don't manage their emotions well. And as my daughter would say, emotions don't work well in relationships. I'm sorry, how you feel doesn't work well in relationships. You have to communicate those feelings, and you have to use the appropriate language to convey an idea and be truthful in your conveyance of this idea and be telling the capital TRUTH. As long as we keep lying and covering up and not really sharing what's in our hearts, we're going to have difficulty out there. And to the extent that I don't know when, it's not me. But now these Oprah Winfrey's and these, and I'm different at you people that are into the movies, you're going to need to start producing movies now that demonstrate individuals working and grinding in relationships where they see us get married, they see us grind, they see us have children, they see us grind, they see us grow old, they watch us grind in these relationships. We are to be the models for our children. If we're not going to model healthy relationships, we do not need to have children because we are doing them a disservice. So I'm just asking us to inhale, Jesus, Jesus, and exhale, Jesus, Jesus. Do I really know how much I'm worth? Can I communicate to you how much I think I'm worth? Can I share with you my real emotions? And can I be clear that these are clearly identified emotions? And I'm going to take all the tomfuckery out of how I speak with you. And I'm going to try to keep these exchanges between us positive. And I'm going to try to use unconditional, positive self regard as I interact in these things called a relationship. It's important. We're going to have to start just telling the truth. What are my ticks? What are my deal breakers? And see if we just can not be married at 20, not be married at 30, not by the time we get 35, I should have developed what my ticks were, what my narrative is, what my truth is, and how much of me do I take ownership of, which in the final analysis, I gotta own my own shit. And my shit is mine. It has nothing to do with him. Because to get to 60, he has to own his shit too. So the thing that I love about Jimmy Carter is that every morning his wife gets a cup of tea. I can see with the Clintons and the Bush and the Bush and the Obama, there has to be something there that keeps them pressing forward toward the mark of the high calling. Trust me, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of unconditional positive self regard. There's a lot of I'm willing to do the work in this thing called a relationship because I value you that much. So you know, I'd like for us to just think a new thought. These relationships they're too chaotic right now. And I'm an old woman looking at you. It's chaotic. We're playing games. We're not telling the truth. And frankly, we don't even know how much we're worth because we've never looked at ourselves and done an assessment of ourselves. We don't know what it is we really like to say and what we don't like to say. We don't even know what our triggers are. We can't even name our triggers. And we really can't name all of our emotions. And until we do, I don't need to be in a relationship with nobody. My relationship right now is with myself. And me getting myself ready to be with anybody or to share, just to share my thoughts with somebody else means I've had to do a lot of work on myself. So let's not get it twisted out here, women. We got work to do. And we women need to stop reproducing if we're not in it to win it. Because our babies need to need to watch us model something different, demonstrate something different. And if it is love, make it work. If you're not hitting, if you're not screaming, if you're not yelling, if you're not gambling, if you're not drugging, if you're not beating, then it's all about communication. It's all about telling the truth. It's all about putting on the table what our economic survival stability is going to look like. We got to just put that stuff out there. We have to come to a consensus about how we're going to handle this. And it's not a I, it's a we. So I wish you guys blessings in your relationships. And I am so happy to wish Miss Roselyn Carter a happy birthday, a happy 94th birthday, being with her man all this time. It's been work, but if you look at her picture, she's smiling. If you look at the Clintons, they're smiling. If you look at the Bush, they're smiling. If you look at the Obamas, they're smiling. And they are continually reworking, reframing, restating, repositioning themselves with truth and clarity in the relationships as they're moving forward. So let me wish each of you a great relationship. And then when we open it up, we can talk about it. Let me invite you to grow into yourself and understand if we have children, our job is to stay with them and to protect them, to tell them the truth and to protect them against early childhood mental illnesses. And we do that by demonstrating unconditional positive self regard. We find positive ways to speak to our children about the behaviors that they are exhibiting. And if they're out of order and they are watching us, then somewhere in what I've been putting out there as mom and dad has been out of order. So let me ask you guys to please think about let's cleaning up our houses, getting our house in order. Because our children are watching us. And right now, we're not taking care of them. Happy birthday, Roselyn. 94 is great. I'll talk about all the other stuff, racism, on tomorrow. I just want to touch bases on women and men and these things called relationships. We just have to do more work. It requires work. Relationships require hard work. It is not easy. And it is exhausting. But it can have beautiful outcomes. Have an awesome evening. Be blessed. If you sow in tears, you will reap in joy. Yours in liberty,